Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Nama saya Muhammad Azky Althaf, absen ke-18 dari kelas 12 IPS 1. Pada kesempatan kali ini, saya membuat video untuk ujian praktek bahasa Inggris tentang membaca teks monolog. The story I want to tell you today is called Radin Jambat. Once upon a time, there was a beautiful land, namely Puninggaran. There was governed by a wise and great king, namely Kiai Sang Ratu Jambi, who had a dauntless and strong son, namely Radin Jambat. This story started when the king held a celebration for his one and the only son who had grown up. At that time, that son who became a man would sail along the reaches of an ocean looking for a wife. One day, when the king and his wife Pelita Raja Nyawa were sunbathing, Mangkubumi came and planned to do the same thing, and here the story began. Because Radin Jambat will explore looking for a wife, Mangkubumi suggests to the king to include Radin Jambat into an army to accompany him. At first, the king did not agree, but the queen did not allow her son to explore on his own. Finally, the king agreed and entrusted his son to Mangkubumi. After getting a blessing from his parents, Radin Jambat was boating together with Mangkubumi. Day by day passed till they were arriving at the edge of a limitless ocean. The boat that became Radin Jambat's life passed. It didn't take any longer when they were arriving in the place named Beringin Tanah Mayat, or Smoky, a place that was used to test a divine power. In this place, they were stopping and resting. The next morning, Radin Jambat meditated under the banyan tree to ask his will to Dewa. He burned incense. This thing made the door of heaven look so smoky. Suddenly, there was a Dewa who was coming to see him. Radin Jambat asked Dewa for a woman, but there was nothing attracts him. Radin also told the Dewa that the woman he liked was named Petik Hati, the daughter of Ratu Rebut Agung. Radin asked Dewa for strength because he was afraid that the princess would not accept him because the princess has already had 40 fiancés. After that, Dewa Subiji immediately transferred his divine power to Radin Jambat. With all of his strength, it didn't take any long after transferring his power, Dewa left him. Then Radin Jambat and Mangkubumi continued their journey. The next day, Radin Jambat and Mangkubumi were arriving in Simpang Laut Tiga. They were confused to choose which path will lead them to the destination. In the middle of the sea, they saw a mythical bird was eating branches. Then, what happened next? Trying his new divine power, Radin asked a bird where the path to the Ratu Rebut Agung place, and the bird told him. After that, Radin Jambat and Mangkubumi were starting to paddle the boat to pass the middle way. Turns out, the bird tricked them both. Then, they were wandering about and sailing without any clear destination and in indefinite direction. But Radin Jambat can find the way by himself. Finally, they immediately headed to the upper course of the river, the place where Petik Hati princess actually took a bath. When arriving in the upper course of the river, they left the boat, and they have been resting for 2 nights. The condition remained silent and there was nothing happened. But when it was coming close to the 3rd night, in the middle of the day, Radin Staka Ali, one of the princess's fiancés, was taking a bath in the river, while was seeing Radin Jambat's boat. A fight ensued between Mangkubumi and Radin Stakai Ali because of misunderstanding. The fight was so saddening. Unfortunately, Radin Stakai Ali was defeated and back home. In the next day, Radin Jambat and Mangkubumi headed to the kampung to look around, and Radin Jambat continued his trip to investigate 40 fiancés of Putri Petik Hati. Then he arrived at a booth. They asked the villagers where the princess was, and finally they met the queen or the mother of the Queen Petik Hati. Radin Jambat asked the queen and the king for permission to marry her daughter. The king and the queen agreed and brought them together. What an awkward meeting between Radin Jambat and Putri Petik Hati, but in their hearts the seeds of love arise. Because they still shy and they decided to communicate by letter. But Radin Stakai Ali realized that Putri Petik Hati fell in love with Radin Jambat, and he was very angry, so that he planned to persuade with the other fiancés to attack Radin Jambat. The fiancés of Putri Petik Hati one of whom is Raden Stakai Ali, came and threatened Raden Jambat. Ratu Batikati is very worried that bad things will happen to her love, but Raden Jambat assured Ratu Batikati that he will be fine. The fight was started, and Raden Jambat succeeded to kill Raden Stakai Ali. Seeing his friend was dead, other fiancés started to show their strength to beat Raden Jambat. Didn't take any longer, the fiancés were killed by Raden Jambat too. Then he met Mangkubumi. They ate and changed their clothes. After taking a rest for 3 days, they once again made sure that there was no one of Putri Batikati's fiancés that still alive. After the fierce battle, Raden Jambat finally proposed to his love, Putri Batikati. The princess also accepted Raden Jambat as her husband. They, accompanied by Mangkubumi, went home to Raden Jambat's kingdom, Puninggaran. After several days, they arrived. All people accept them happily. Father, mother, said Raden Jambat happily. Kiai Sang Ratu Jambi and his wife Pelita Raja Nyawa are very proud of their son because he achieved something that he wants most in life, and that is true love. The end. Sekian video ujian praktek dari saya. Terima kasih Memlina sudah mau menonton. Saya harap saya dapat mendapatkan nilai maksimal. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Terima kasih.